My name is Simone, and this session is about transforming conflicts. If you had expected somebody else to be here, I jumped in last minute. There was another person who who was supposed to run this, and she missed all her flights, so they were canceled. And so also disclaimer, I'm going to absolutely wing this. And I can do that because I'm a professional mediator, I'm a facilitator of complex and conflictious stuff, processes for about 15 years, so I think we can do this. Yeah.
We believe in you.
She's thank you.
Yeah.
I got it. She can do it.
You raise your hand.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So first thing, I'm really curious about why you're here. It's about, I would say, 30 people. So let's have you turn to the person next to you if it's not the person you came with. So try and speak to somebody that you don't know, and if not, maybe jumble it up a little. Let's speak to the person next to you, and can we make the circle bigger so she can go over there? Yeah. Oh yeah, this one. And yeah, tell them briefly like who you are, where you come from, and why you came to this session. Like, why is this important to you right now? So I'll give you 2 minutes each, and I'll give you the warning when to switch. So.
Wait a minute, you didn't record all that? A lot of good stuff there.
So many good insights. Yeah. So let's hear them. Questions, issues that you're facing around conflicts, transforming conflicts, and if you can do it haiku style, that would be great. No. What I mean by that is short. You know, we're 30 people. Let's see if we can do this in under 30 minutes. And if somebody says something which is identical to yours, just do this, or somebody said it. So real quick, say your name and why are you here? What's your burning question or your burning issue? You guys there? Will you start? Oh, the poor jet lagged mama who's coming from Moscow all the way. If you're not ready, you can pass on and I'll go back to you. Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so will you start us off?
I'm Crow Bob and camp lead for a small camp, 20 people or so, and I'm always looking for ways how to deal with people, and when something comes up very emotionally charged. How
within your camp? Or
yes, within the camp.
Okay.
Within the camp.
Mm-hmm. I can write and listen.
Okay, great. My name is Natalie. My name is so on it. I am bossy middle management at Disorient at Camp of 200. And I'm here to find out how to have difficult but necessary conversations amongst our community of 200 people of all ages and backgrounds, ranging from 3 months to well into their 70s.
My name is Jill, and I'm here to talk about and learn about ways of inter-camp conflicts. So conversations that happen pre-playa, on playa, and post-playa that create a reputation that maybe is not earned or deserved, and how not to cut snark, basically. And it's
how to cut snark.
With a knife.
My name's Stiletto. I'm part of a small, maybe 30-person camp, and the thing I was wanting to learn about was how to deal with differences in communication style, where it causes conflict, and one person says one thing and they mean it completely neutrally, and the other person takes offense at it, and vice versa.
My name is Megan. I'm with Decadent Oasis. All of that, and also how to set expectations to avoid conflict.
I'm Keith from Reno Nation, and ours is like just kind of hold people accountable. Like it's just shifts and say anything in general, or it's kind of a hard thing to keep people accountable on our camp sometimes.
My name is Esteban. I'm also with Reno Nation. Second hand of that is we are trying to restructure and downsize our camp, which means we have to tell friends of 10 years that they're not camping with us and how to have that conversation. Text. Yes.
And then you ghost. Well played.
I'm Radius, and our camp is perfect. So our camp ranges from 30 to 90 people to sometimes 60. And I'm here to hopefully get perspective on two types of problems. One is how to have difficult conversations with co-founders who are facing challenging choices in their lives, and how to help them, and also how to have difficult conversations with my camp population as they are experiencing those co-founders.
I'm Aya. I'm with Deep Psyche. We're about 20 to 25 people, and I'm here to figure out how to prevent and help with interpersonal conflicts that maybe come from off-Gaia, for people who know each other and they take things with them home and things root and then explode and then they come back and now they have to come camp together again.
I'm Lauren. I'm with a 120-person camp called Fly Bike Repair. A lot of people who are bicyclists in general are very independent. A lot of people who go to Burning Man are independent. People who go to Burning Man don't like authority. And so when you add all these things together, you get, sometimes you're feeling like you're in battle with certain people. It can be quite contentious. We haven't had any real issues, but one person who is really key to our build and strike teams is has always been able to diffuse all these, isn't there this year. So that means problems we haven't had in 6 years are likely to come up, and we don't have an experienced person to facilitate that dialogue. So it could be a little more explosive.
I'm Trixie. I'm with Nochino's Pizza Camp. I think giving the baton to someone or groups of someone's for specific leadership roles, and when they drop that baton, how do you have those conversations? Pick it back up.
I'm Papa Mike, and I'm a ranger, so I get to help people mediate things a lot. So I'm looking to add to my toolbox. So I know there's 1,001 ways to skin a cat, and I'd like to learn 1,002, just to help when things escalate for you folks, or for us.
So tools for de-escalation?
For mediation.
I'm Rhett. I'm with the Fastest Pizza Stand, and I'm a conflict avoider, and I used to be a very good diffuser of conflicts. Now I get very angry when I can't do that. I seem to not be able to diffuse it, so I'm trying to get better at that.
So personal tools for facing conflict?
That's it, yeah. Thank you.
My name's CW. I'm with No Regrets Skis. Going off what Trixie said, having other, camp leaders kind of drop that baton, or like the same recurring issue coming up again and again from one participant, and just really some tools how to work through that.
I'm Sachi. I'm with Unicorner. We have about 25 people, and I'm very much in the same boat as Keith and Esteban, with just some tools for having tough conversations with people that I love as friends, but maybe aren't the best campmates.
I'm Lisa, or Energizer. I'm also with the Unicorner. Just personal tools to learn how to. Conflicts come up all the time, either interpersonally, within our infrastructure, and also with other camps. So just the small conversations and big conversations.
Hello, I'm Victor. I'm a student at the new innovative university in San Francisco, Minerva Schools, and I haven't engaged before with Burning Man. I came to explore, and I want to start with my girlfriend in Russia, like a transformational retreat camp also. So I want to bring some experience from Burning Man, And here particularly I'm interested more into transforming part, like how to build transformational communications, and like how to engage people into communication who are more like not regular to networking, maybe something like
I'm Uncle Awesome with Camp Corny, and we haven't really had a blow up yet, so I'm just waiting for it. So we're here, and you know you can't defuse the bomb that you've never practiced on. So we're just here to. You can always learn. So, and every symposium I've come to, I always have a list of shit I want to learn, and I never learned that. I learned a bunch of other stuff. So, so I'm just here to learn and soak it all up. So.
I'm Gemma, and similar to what others have said, just adding to the toolbox. Also thinking specifically about how to have better conversations with neighbors, neighborhood camp neighbors, and also Uncle Awesome and I were talking about treating this sort of preparation as emergency management, basically, because it's not the if, it's the when, and it's needing to de-escalate things, and sometimes that's a bit of an emergency, so treating it with that regard.
Awesome. I'm Madison with Camp Fafa, and I really wanted to attend this because I feel like clear communication is at like the forefront of everything you do to make the burn successful, and so anything I can learn to improve that is well worth the time.
I'm Brian from Religious as Fuck, and what I'm interested in has already been mentioned.
Thank you.
I'm Nita. I'm with Red Herring. We're 120 person camp. Last year, we're downsizing this year. But I guess I have no toolbox because I've got alcohol liquor, I've got 3 things. But yes and yes to dropping the baton, especially with established camp leaders who, they're the veterans. You expect them to do it and they don't. And you know, getting away when you're having conversations with campmates in conflict, away from blaming to really focusing on the issues, because it keeps going back to blame, 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 blame. And that brings up a lot of emotions, which just leads to the next thing. How do you focus on logic and emotions? Is that even possible? I had someone else. Yeah, and off playa, there seems to be a lot of behind the scenes emails and talking about problems and issues, and there's just so much information. How do you combat that? It seems like it's a full-time job sometimes to bust, you know, the myth versus the reality, and what really happened, or you know, facts. How to deal with that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to summarize.
Oh, yeah. For everyone. Yeah. Gossip versus facts, I think. Yeah, just perfect.
But same with Legends of the Hidden Planet.
National problem, right?
Yeah. Really. I think it's been mentioned before, but trying to mediate conflicts with neighboring camps, like, get your generator out of that yurt, or exhaust, or those kind of things. Like, this last year, a lot of those kind of issues came up, and kind of realized, like, man, I kind of suck at negotiating with our neighbors. Everybody's pissed off now. So I've got over here some experience from others who might be a little better at, conflict resolution. So.
Wink with pickled mink, and one of the things, because I'm thinking about on playa and trying to make the decision of when to deal with the issue or not. Like, what are the issues I need to put aside, and what are the issues that need attention?
I'm Katie. I camp with Bumblepuss. We're within Nectar Village. We've got about 66 people in our camp and well over 200 in the village, probably more. And my questions have been asked, so I'm ready to listen.
I'm Robin. I'm also with Bumblepuss, and I didn't have any specific questions. I'm just interested in the topic in general. Here.
I'm Mercedes with Ashram Galactica, your home away from home, away from home. Around 15 years, we've had, we've ridden a lot of storms, and recently there was a very contentious issue that Simone actually, professionally helped us with. And one of the things that we realized is we were running from the problem. You guys handle this isn't us, this is your problem. And then we had to really kind of go into the problem. This is our community. And whether or not we feel we're qualified to make decisions, we do hold this space. So we're just kind of right now getting back to it. So I'm looking to help us continue further going in to the hard work.
I'm Robin. We're with Havana Club. We're usually around 85. It varies a little bit more. And we surprisingly don't really have a lot of drama, but there's usually some, sometimes bit yelling here and there that might come up. I find it's almost always on the Sunday breakdown, right? Yeah. So it would be great to be, especially because I'm part of the people running things, to be able to de-escalate, because sometimes I'm the one who wants to jump in there and get some part of it. Because by then you're pretty fast. You've been there since early access and have much left. So having some left for the end and Sunday would be great. Breakdown.
I'm fine. I'm with Genital Portrait Studios. I've got two issues why I'm here. One of them is how do you get the people in your camp who don't really use their voice to say I have a conflict to come forward and say I have a conflict, and it is important. If it's a conflict to you, it's important for the camp. So how to get that out there with advice. And then also, when people start texting, they take your texting out of context, and people start fighting on texting over our group chat. How do you deflect that? Like, what's some experiences people have, and how? I mean, everyone knows you don't fight over text, but how do you tell that they're going to be fighting over text?
Call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Randy. I'm the mayor of Hair of the Dog. And 3 years ago, I had to mediate an inter-camp consent Me Too kind of thing. So I opened up all of our camp. I made it transparent. We've been in the process of making a book, a manual. And I have another guy that's in our camp who's going to help us. And we made a decision earlier this morning when they brought this up in the open section. We're going to work on that for the next 3 months. And I just wanted some bullet points. But it was really.
And will you share that then?
Now?
When it's done.
The book.
When it's
Oh,
done,
the book. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our resource manuals, well, I guess I'd have to share it. Anybody that's in our camp has access to it. I mean, they know what people pay their camp.
I'm Brett. I'm with Air Phoenix, and I'm interested in helping our campers build each other, building accountability to the principles and to commitments and respect for each other and things like that.
So one thing I love about doing this is that a lot of the answers to your questions were in this round. I hope you noticed that.
Wait, Snow, will you capture one more thing that Pi said about empowering voices that don't feel validated to come out?
Yeah.
It's mainly with the ones too. I feel like I'm being heard because I say something and then they just conflict and they just go away and don't feel like they're comfortable. How do you make them?
Can everybody see this okay? Sorry to turn around. So, I'm seeing a couple of themes here. Some of them are Burning Man specific, like how do you deal with neighbors, how do you deal with issues within the camp. Some are about how do I personally face conflict and stay calm, or how can I do that? Because most people, I don't think anybody will say they like conflict. So the first thing about conflict, I guess, that I want to say is that from a neurological perspective, it puts us into our, I always get this wrong, into our fight, flight, freeze mode, right? And those are the 3 responses that we have when we feel threatened. So the very first advice I have to anyone, and that I always have to do when I'm mediating as well, like I get triggered like shit, is to do some something that brings me back into my creative brain. I've worked with a therapist for a while, and she actually taught me to count backwards, and like to do some mathematical stuff. You know, count backwards in 4 steps or 5, something that's not super easy that you can do, so that will get you back into that creative mode. Or other people like to get into their body right now. Breathe deeply, feel your feet on the floor. Like literally, those are some things that you can do in the moment, and you have to practice that. And like keep practicing it when you're in the conflict. Welcome. Come on. See, this is so there's a lot more personal tools that I can share, but I was thinking that maybe we want to split up in some smaller groups and have some conversation. There seems to be a group around the intercamp conflicts. So first of all, how do you guys feel about me sharing a little bit more and then going into little groups?
Yes.
Yeah? Share a little bit more?
Yes, please.
Okay. So first, the personal tool. So as a conflict mediator or facilitator, or somebody who just wants to be a good person and face conflict in a good way, you are an instrument. So using yourself, your body, your breathing, your mind, the way you engage your mind as a tool is very important. And whatever practice you have that helps you to stay grounded, do that, use that. There isn't one way. So tip number 1, how to face conflict. My teacher calls himself as instrument. Number 2 is, somebody said it here, like how to set expectations to avoid conflict and how to create accountability. That's actually very important. Like going to somebody and telling them there are consequences if they didn't know there were going to be consequences is shitty, right? So like starting with that. This year, maybe for this year, you wanna create a path of escalation. Even just a team. So in my team last year, we started the mediators. We called recharge, mediators, whatever, but mediators. So people knew that there was a group of people they could even come to when something would come up. I don't know who of you has such a team in your camp. Can we hear some experiences? Mercedes.
Yeah, now we do because someone helped us do this. But we have our owls, and it actually has an acronym, but I don't remember what it was. Some whatever. But that is the group that and we would make an announcement at camp meeting, and like the owls would stand up so we all could sort of have eye contact. These are the people that, if you feel uncomfortable with someone who's come to the camp, with someone who's in the camp, or even with some elder in the camp, doesn't matter who, look at us, we're here to help you. And what we're actually trying to do is empower all of us to be owls for each other. So we're just sort of starting out as this little seed group to grow into the people that are looking out for each other. And then we came up with a little green light, or I think it was like yellow, orange, red code system for ourselves. Like, okay, yellow, watch this situation, because we run a hotel and a bar, so it's a lot of traffic. Then there's a code orange, I need you to come. So drop what you're doing and come, and back me up. And a code red, like this is a problem. That's sort of like with the outward facing. Then there's like a more nuanced protocol with the inward facing, because you're not just like, well, kick out Robin because she just made me mad. Just like I just read your anyway. Sorry, I love Robin. I'm never kicking her out of camp.
So what Mercedes is referring to is what I would call a process or a path of escalation. So get together with your group and decide like what are our criteria. What's a 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strike out, or how many strikes you want to give people, right? How many second chances do you want to give people? Like decide on that and decide on what does that mean for you specifically in your context for your camp. So I just read an article about Homeroom in Oakland is a mac and cheese restaurant, and they have something called the MAC system, which means if a customer, so it was about sexual harassment, how to deal with sexual harassment from clients. So the leader of Homeroom is very collaborative, and they have very collaborative culture. She got her people together, and they came up with the system, which is basically a traffic light. So yellow means creep or vibe, you know, somebody is just feeling creepy. So the server can go to the manager, and the manager takes over the table. Code orange is creep or vibe and a comment. So a comment on, you know, hey, you look very beautiful, or you have a cool t-shirt. Because what they found out is that sexual harassment, or you could apply the same to conflicts, they don't start out of the blue, nothing happens before. It's usually a build-up. So if you build in breaks before, if you build in a warning system, you can eradicate most of the sexual harassment or the conflicts. So I would really recommend you have that conversation. You create some kind of a team, or you know, in your case, you had a person, now he's gone. If you had a team and that person had passed on their skills, you would be more resilient. So maybe create a team, decide what that path of escalation is, and what the consequences are. Because it's not fair to just, you know, kick people out without them having known the consequences of their actions. Often it's more ignorance than it is maliciousness, right? Or watching high or whatever.
That never happens. Never happens.
On life, I mean. What do you mean? Another thing I wanted to touch on is so the consequences, but what if something happened, something bad already happened? So another philosophy and set of tools I like to work with is called restorative justice or transformative justice, which take it a step further. So that's about not looking at whose fault is it, but who got hurt and how can we make it right. So you change the question from, that was the blame question, what was that? You change it from trying to blame people and finding who's responsible to who got hurt and how can we make it right as a community here. And that's, I think that's a really, it's a healing approach, because we don't want to go around punishing people, right? It's burning them. So you can look that up, restorative justice or transformative justice. And especially around the sexual stuff and consent and sexual harassment related issues, there is a really, really cool public process that is documented on Medium that you can find through the transformative justice site of a guy. There was a sex educator who transgressed and was accused in his community, and they gone through a whole healing process, the community, and he went through a process of like redeeming himself and like working on himself and documenting how he did that. And there was an accountability pod, and there was a pod for the victims to, you know, to support them. So it's all documented there. If you're interested, you can find it online, or I'll leave my email if you are asking for it. So basically, work with yourself, have a team that is responsible for conflict, that people can go to that have an issue. Like knowing that you can go somewhere to have your voice heard is very important, especially for, you know, it also prevents gossip. If there is a process and if there is a place to go to, there's no need for gossip. Or less need, you know, for gossip. You have a path of escalation, if there's clear consequences, and if you have a restorative approach. So those would be like my quick tips. Any questions?
How do you get people, you know, you designate a team, you know, what kind of tools are you giving them, or are you just simply looking for people who feel like already have
My suspicion is that in every community, there are some people who are just naturally.
So that's probably your best.
Yeah, yeah, start with that, and there are a lot of tools, like the rangers have a lot of resources. Do you wanna talk to that for a second, like what is out there, in terms of support for people around conflicts?
Sure. So when I run into somebody who is emotionally stressed out on playa, it's usually one of three things. And I ask them three questions, and we usually get to the heart of the matter pretty quickly. When's the last time you had something to drink that was not alcoholic? When's the last time you had something to eat? And when's the last time you had some sleep? And I know it sounds simple, but when I ask those questions, and a lot of times I stop at the bottle of water, and I usually carry water around with me, and I give them a bottle, and the transformation is magical. It happens in 15 or 20 minutes. So, especially when you're on playa, especially at the end of the week, when you're trying to get the camp broke down, people are probably tired, and they're hangry, and they're probably hungover, especially on Sunday after the man burn. I would start with those three things. That's number one. Number two, I think the things you're talking about here is excellent. I'm really encouraged to hear people concerned about and building tools within their own camp or village to acknowledge and then deal with some of these issues. They're very difficult. If you expect a ranger to come into you at the middle of your issue and take sides and solve the problem for you, you may be disappointed. So what we try to do is what you do professionally, is try to get both parties to understand where the other person's coming from, to get away from stances and get into needs. In other words, the stance is, you got to turn off your sound system because I can't get any sleep, versus the need of, I need to get some sleep, because there's multiple solutions to the need. And when you take a stance that you need to turn your sound system off, that's kind of a I win, you lose situation, and that's, someone's going to wind up disappointed in that one. The third issue, or the third suggestion, is if you have people who are emotionally at stress, psychologically at stress, whether it's based on they're deciding not to take their medications this week. You'd be surprised how many people decide the burn is a good time to stop taking their antidepressants, or they decide they want to do Molly, so they're going to stop taking their SSRIs. Bad idea. Keep on taking your meds, keep on staying hydrated. But if you're having problems you can't deal with, rangers can help get you access to resources very quickly, whether that's medical access or medical solutions, or the Zendo. Is everybody familiar with that resource? Mm-hmm. So that's located right next to the Ranger HQ this year, or last year it was, at 530. And those are people who are very experienced with people who are having adverse reactions to something that they took, whether it was a drug or a combination. It's usually a combination of drugs and alcohol that gets them in problems, or a combination of drugs, alcohol, and not eating. So I would start with the three things first. And then I really encourage to hear what you're saying down here about the mediation tools. That's excellent.
I want to double click on something you said about positions versus needs. So like you said, like turn off your generator, that's a position. But it's often much more effective to, like, especially in like with neighbors, people you don't know that well, to be a little bit more vulnerable than that and come with what's your need. Like, what do you really need from them? And then, you know, then there's more openness to this conversation.
Oh, I just aren't some of the rangers trained in like higher level? I forget what they call it.
Call them green dots.
Huh?
Green dots.
Yes, that's it.
So
Yes, that's it. I have a friend who does that.
Yeah, I do that as well. So
Yeah, okay,
so we're people who have volunteered. And sometimes I question why I did this, but we volunteered to sit with people who may need more than just a half an hour discussion. So it may go to 4, 6, 8 hours. I've had situations that have lasted that long, and sometimes we need to hand off to other people. But yes, we do have those resources. But really, any ranger who is who is decent at doing what they do can handle a green dot, quote unquote, situation. You don't always need.
I didn't know it existed until maybe a year or two ago. That's
Yeah,
why I'm like-
there's been lots of colors of dots within the Rangers, but currently green dot is what you ask for when you think you have somebody who may wind up at Zendo, for example. I'm sorry, the other resource is if people don't want to go to Zendo for whatever reason, the Rangers also have something at HQ called Sanctuary. So if someone is not psychologically stressed, they're just hangry, or they're really dehydrated, or they really just need someplace quiet that they can chill out, there's a tent which happens to be right next to Zendo, this last burn, called Sanctuary, which is just a quiet place. No one's going to talk to you or do anything other than hold a safe space for you so that you can have whatever the experiences you need to. I've seen participants who just want to lie down and have a quiet room for a little bit to get away from their camp maybe, or to get away from the person they're sharing their tent with. I just need to hang out and collect my thoughts. So there's that resource too.
Is there someone moderating or inside? Is there someone keeping an eye out in that area?
Yes. And if things escalate, they can take them to Zendo or medical if necessary.
And one thing, because it came up in the conversation with Mercedes Camp last year, the Rangers really are a safe place to go to, right? Like, you guys are part of our community, and it's perfectly safe to go with. Like, there's some issues that you don't have to solve by yourselves, and they're really a good resource.
Well, we are participants just like you. When I'm not rangering, I'm helping to run a 10-foot tall cupcake called Random Acts of Cupcake. So I do other stuff too.
Because, you know, some people are like, oh, what if drugs are involved, and is it safe? Are they going to report us?
So that's actually one of the things that I learned after 3 years of being in a leadership position in Detroit, was to help our newer campers especially understand the role of the Rangers, and it's reduced the burden, I think, and the number of crises that are brought to our direct attention if people know that they can go to you. So I encourage all leads to spread that knowledge, especially to new people.
Yeah, so Rangers are not cops.
Sorry to jump, I know you have.
Some of us also wear a badge that says, "We're not your mom."
So you had a question, and then you.
This is a tip that we have used in our camp, which is, if there's a situation, you say, let's drink some water. So it's not that that person needs to drink water, like, we're gonna drink some water, and it's an acknowledgement that things are, if not already out of control, they're headed out of control. But drinking water is, like you said, most likely gonna help the situation. It's just sort of, it stops where, if we're building, whatever we're doing, we stop and we drink water.
It's also a good Dune reference. Sure.
I am curious as to people, because I think that's a great, how you communicate to new campers. I find that something we've done, because our camps have evolved over time, is that maybe the new campers that have come on in the last 3 years, so we've like made a really robust code of contact, like they have gotten all this information, but people who have been camping with us for 10 years, like they're kind of sometimes the ones who have the problems because they're not brought up to speed. So I guess I'm curious if people like send out the same communication to everyone, or they onboard people and then they forget about them. So I think that's something I really want to implement, is like, let's get everybody on the same page this year.
Yeah, is that
I have a little suggestion for that. We have a survey that everyone fills out no matter what. If you're going to be in our camp, the first thing is, and you brush over all forms of responsibility, and you can brush over what their understanding of the principles are. You can do all of that in like a simple Google survey, and then you acquire that information, and you can lean back on, well, you know, that can go from everything as like what they want to do in camp, but also like, do that we have a piece of paper that says you fucking know. And why are you acting like you don't fucking know? You know, so that's a layer of accountability that we just start with. And it's like, well, I burned with you guys for 4 years. Why am I filling out this survey? And you're like, well, you won't be burning with us this year if you don't fucking fill out the survey. You know what I mean? Like, super easy. So just start there, and then everyone's on the same page. It's like a contract of like, you know, we're doing it together. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
So what do you ask in the survey?
Just a bunch of questions. I mean like, how long your car is, how you know, how are you tent camping? Are you going to be a part of core team? Or you want to be starting or build, or you want to be tear down, or all that in between? Do you, you know, like, what are your 3 choices on like what you'd like to do most? Work in the kitchen, help out this, move lead, all this other stuff, and then you compile that information, and then the 2 camp leads we break down and like, well, these people are pointing in this direction. We want to make sure that their shifts are based around that. So like everyone's working, but you know you're going to be doing something that you would at least appreciate and stuff like that. So,
when do you do the survey?
Like we have our like decompression party, and then we don't talk about Burning Man for about a month or 2, and then we have like our compression parties. We just had our kickoff party about a month ago, and so then our survey will come out about a month after that. So like in a week or so. Yeah, now-ish.
Good
expand on the survey.
Yeah, more
to her question, we do it as part of the we have a membership request form, so it's part and parcel of the membership request form. As a part of becoming this camp, these are our agreements, and you'll read them and say yes, 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 and then they might see these same things again at the point, because sometimes we'll have a membership agreement, and then at the actual point at which they pay, they might see those again, or I might have added some, but it kind of, at least a refresher.
The other thing I would say is like, we also do a survey, but what I typically do is do the survey as like a application, right? Like you're expressing interest in the camp, and then basically do a follow-up of the people that we're gonna invite that year and say, you're invited, and you've already touched on all the things that the camp requires in the survey, but people are a lot more likely, I find, to be honest. If you like ask them questions generally, are you planning to do X or Y, this is what the camp expects, then if you're like, do this or you can't come. And so then all the people who answer in ways where I'm like, the fuck are you doing? I can like email them and talk to them before ever saying you're welcome to come to the camp, which helps like more broadly in the community set expectations about like what it means to be part of our group. Then when I send out the invite, it's like, hey, by the way, you are all getting this invite contingent on your answers to the survey for these things, which are sort of requirements of being part of our camp. And then sort of similar to what you said, like there's a piece of paper and it's like, look, we're very clear about this. These are our expectations. If you can't meet them, we need to have a conversation ASAP. And stuff evolves. You can't always know. But, you know, it helps to get it out of front.
Is that still to the same point?
Yeah. We do monthly awareness. So we pick a different topic leading up to the burn that we're going to talk about that whole month on our Facebook group and our base camp. And we also divide up all of our virgins and Bergens into groups based on geographical location on the planet, so that they can talk amongst themselves of what their specific needs are, what the expectations are. So if you're coming from Europe, you don't have to try and be up when I'm up in San Francisco to have this conversation. We have a point person there. And so we've had conflicts, all the different kinds of conflicts that you can think of. And so we just, last year, we had the membership on different exploratory sexual preferences. Online, not associated with the camp, but 2 of our campers were on this website. And the woman said that, you know, he was bothering her on the website before. It had nothing to do with our camp. And then she was going to camp with us, found out that this person is in our camp and has been in our camp for quite some time. And so we had to do off-playa conflict resolution. And then, so we started with, you know, May is May I, which is consent month, where we just talk about what it's like to be on playa, what it's like to be off playa, and when somebody has a conversation with you and says that I'm not interested in having this conversation with you anymore, that means that please stop talking to them, even if you have common interest. And so it creates a very comfortable point for us to start from with May, with consent, because then we'll take on different conversation like on-playa expectations of roles, like what your role is. And that'll be a whole month where that's all we focus on. So if there's a question, you're getting it out, because we do grade our campers. I don't know if other people do that, but like if you didn't live up to the expectation of what you said you were going to do, if you had a leadership role, drop the baton. If you were awesome and you're a great camper, we want to give you more responsibility, invite you back DGS, and we do that immediately after. So
grades?
Yeah, like just if we noticed that somebody was awesome, we want the other leads to know that there was an awesome camper.
But who does the grading?
The entire elders group. We have a large leadership group, and so we divide up responsibility because everybody wants to burn. That's our philosophy. You can't do everything. So we try and burn all year long so that on playa, the responsibility level is quite low for 1 or 2 individuals. It's spread out to the whole camp.
How many people in your leadership team?
This year we have 11 people in our leadership team, and you grow into the leadership team. So Awesome Camper becomes a point person lead, so interactivity lead for Trump Assault. That's what we're doing this year. So you are the person who gets all the people who does all the shifts. You talk to those people before playa, you talk to them in the mornings and tell them. If that person does an amazing job, they move up to camp lead. You're gonna run the camp for the year, next year. Like you know what you're doing. And then if you do a really great job as camp lead, you are welcome to become an elder and become part of the decision-making team, because you really understand what it's like to be a camper, to run an event, to run a camp, and now you can make large-scale decisions. And so that way some of us can retire.
How many people in your camp?
We run about 120. We've had 3 camps at sometimes.
So that was also a good way about succession planning, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you grow people into leadership?
Yeah.
Okay, were there any other points around your question?
Yeah, do your elders, like, even if they don't come back to Burning Man for like 10 years, I mean, it has changed in 10 years. Are they still relevant to your zoning process, I guess is what
No,
I'm saying?
you get to go into the retirement, Shady Pines. You go to Shady Pines. You go to Shady Pines. So like last year.
So that's important too, right?
Yeah.
It's how do you call it, retirement?
Yeah, a retirement program for the elders, because they're old. They still get to camp with us, they still get privileges and things like that, but they're out of that trend-setting block of this is what we're doing, this is our inclusion level. And so we just kind of graduate people through the process.
Awesome. So were there other questions? Do you have another question that was?
No, I just think it was touching on the whole water thing, which was quite like a good reminder. Our camp, like I'm always there for build and breakdown, and so and then you got a lot of newbies who are standing around going, I don't know what to do, and only a few of us kind of know. I'm the only person allowed to hold the dough figure because I'm the only person. You know, so you've got these people who want to do stuff, but I noticed this last year or two where it was like somebody went, we're standing around and we maybe can't do this. Go grab the water. Go around, fill everybody's water. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was brilliant. It actually worked really well and probably kept us from having a lot of people burning out. So thank you for the reminder, because it'll make me remember to do that more. And I think we're in that position of being people to remind people, like, you can go give everyone water. And it makes them feel happy because they're doing something.
I just want to add a small comment to that, which is just when we do strike or build, there's usually people who are responsible for like food, and so it's this awesome thing where they'll just come up and be like, hey, you haven't had a sandwich, have a sandwich I made you, and it just like makes all the difference. So if you're not doing that, think about it.
We make everybody break.
We have a
allow
40
everybody
minute- we have a
break.
40 minute
and
Yeah,
we have a crew that puts out a lunch and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the water thing is organizing.
It's totally
is so nice. Somebody just goes around and does it.
Fluffers are key. Make sure.
Yeah.
Feed your back.
Did you have something else you wanted to
No, actually, that was covered by a previous conversation.
So I wanted to make sure that we cover a little bit the neighbor conversation, and then there was a lot around how to have difficult conversations, especially like with founders or with people you need to let go of, or that kind of stuff. So one thing that I got hammered into my head in my mediation training was the value of listening, and that there's actually different ways we can listen. So there's tons of models. Again, you can Google like models of listening. There's one which I use a lot. This is created by a person who works at MIT. He calls it the 4 levels of listening. So the first one, and with deeper listening, there's more and more openness in us, right? So he calls it the levels because there's an open mind, there's an open heart, and then there's an open will. And they're actually quite distinct. And if we're not even open-minded, then it's just like throwing stuff at each other, right? So it's just it's not even debate. It's just downloading. Like somebody said it on stage, I think, are we even in the same conversation, right? We've all been in this. Downloading stuff from each other, not listening at all. If we agree to have an open mind, we're maybe in a debate where we, where we exchange facts with each other. We may listen to the other person, but we just listen. We just take in their facts. We might not change our mind. So what's missing there is empathy. So really feeling the other person, feeling where they're coming from, like putting ourselves in their shoes. And that's empathic listening. So the talking is the debate, but the listening is kind of just reconfirming. And then with the open will, he calls it generative listening. So with the empathic listening, especially the empaths in this group, have you ever had this feeling when you really listen and lean into somebody and you feel like you're getting sucked into their story and you kind of lose your own ground, you lose your own values, or you don't even know anymore like what to say back to them? So that's good in a sense because you're really empathic, your heart is really open, but it's not very good in conflict. So in generative listening, we're listening from a bigger space. We're having in mind, for example, the good of the camp. If you know you enter into a conversation with people you have to let go of, you don't go into that conversation thinking I'm such an asshole, I have to keep these people out. You go into the conversation with we're doing the best for the camp, and we're just doing the best we can, because that's all you can do after all, right? So in a generative conversation, it's so important to have like a higher purpose or a bigger intent that's outside of you. And if you can make that the preface of the conversation, that really helps as well. And the same with, and sometimes that's, for example, he asked about founders who are dealing with shit in their life and it's impacting other campers. Go into the conversation with noticing impact, right? You tell them, I've noticed there's an impact of what you're dealing with in your life on our campers. And listen to them, listen to whatever you want to listen to and try to help them reach the point that's not what they want. And then you can problem solve together. It's something we had to do, Mercedes and I, with one of their founders last year. And it was a really tough conversation, and it took me really long because that person did not want to see their impact. But finally, we arrived at it. We're back in the middle of it, but anyway. It's a process. Yeah, it's a process. It's a process. Especially if you didn't have a path of escalation beforehand, right? So preparation, prepare for your conflicts. That's really something I'd love to do. So any comments on that, any wisdom, any experience with that, any questions?
Our camp has just recently, in the last year, let me get into this man here, hold on. Anyway, go somewhere else, I'll give it a second. It was the door opening. Oh, so yeah, like I want to encourage people in our camp to, if you have a conflict, get on it right now. Our camp is in the habit of wait till you get home, let's not bring it up now, let's not burn, everyone's burned. And it's like, no, if we have a conflict, and then you go home and no one deals with it, and then a month before you go to Burning Man the next year, your key players are not going because all of a sudden it blew up. So what is anyone's experience on that? Do you deal with it on Playa, or do you wait? Before it goes under the rug, which nobody buys, but still.
For us, I mean, we've had a few issues like that, and I think some of my judgment call about it during the burn has been like, can I resolve this now? And is it worth taking the bull by the horns, like, in this moment? Is it something that has to get dealt with now? Is there, like, a traumatic aspect to it that's affecting somebody? I mean, we had issues with a group that joined our camp last year that is no longer with the camp, and I chose to completely ignore that problem for the time that we were on the playa, because it would have thrown everything into huge chaos to kick half the camp out 2 days before the burn, you know? So I was like, I'm just gonna put a pin in that until after the burn and deal with it. And I had a great burn, and a big part of that was, like, I chose for myself that I was not gonna waste my energy on that, and I was gonna focus on my burn and not their issues. And then, you know, I dealt with it after, and it was great, but it wasn't something that was affecting me or the camp during the burn. It was an issue of expectations, and, like, yeah, I was pissed, but it was easier just to put that in a box until later, you know. But I feel like other times where we had issues, where a few years ago we had a campmate that was being really nasty to a lot of other people in the camp, we didn't deal with it until afterwards, and that was a huge mistake. That should have gotten nipped in the bud immediately. We maybe should have escalated it to the point where we asked him to leave the camp during the burn, because he did ruin a lot of campmates and even visitors' experiences just by being nasty, and everyone was afraid to do anything about it. And also, what I ran into a lot was that people were afraid to stand up for themselves and would wait until, like, mom and dad mayor came back and would come running to us and say, fix this. And I was like, you know, you guys, you can say, like, yo, you can't talk to me like that. Like, you don't have to wait till we come home and then say, can you go regulate on that person? So we put a lot of things in place, like having mediators in camp and having clearer expectations about behavior. So, like, our camp contract covers things like, you know, make sure you show up for strike and bring your own water, but there's also a portion of it that deals with consent and just, you know, everyone's gonna have your midweek meltdown and have a bad day and need water or whatever, but, like, not taking out your personal issues on the people in the camp, and, like, making sure you're just not harshing somebody else's burn. And then having that be a clear expectation was really helpful when we had to check somebody's behavior, because it was like, you know, this isn't about you at this point, it's about how you're negatively affecting the camp. So yeah, I think, like, levels.
And that's something that can help you decide, right? Is it worth it? Is it just my own pride, or is it negatively affecting the whole group?
Yeah.
I think you brought up a really good point of that we struggled with too, around, wait, I can't solve this right now.
Right.
So is it worth even going into? And sometimes it was good to know going in, we can't solve this right now, but we're also acknowledging, and that did a lot to bring down what would have just been, like, continuing spin out. To know, like, we heard what, you know, had you had said about whatever, you know, knowing that we wouldn't be able to resolve it fully, playa, this is a different issue. But it also made a huge difference to have, like, everyone knew, oh, a yellow is when, I mean, it was so simple, but because it was just right in our language again, a yellow is when I feel uncomfortable, or blah, 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 whatever it was, we knew how to get in there so that it didn't have to get to that place.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate what is your camp contract?
This actually was developed out of having conflicts with people, where we've added to it and refined it every year, and we send it out to all the camp members each year, and they have to read and agree to the contract. And it outlines really basic stuff like, you know, what your responsibilities are before, during, and after the burn for camp, like maintenance and participation, but it also has information in it about, like, you know, like I said, consent and just behavior in the camp and leave no trace and stuff like that. So it covers sort of how the 10 principles affect how you interact with the camp, and a lot of it was, like, reactionary. Like, when we had that problem with somebody that was being nasty, afterwards, when we told him he wasn't allowed to camp with us anymore, he said, you don't have the right to kick us out. And we were like, A, watch me. And then B, it was like, okay, we didn't have a clear escalation path at that point as a new camp, and we had never made it clear that, like, just generally being an asshole to everybody really wasn't okay, and we would have consequences for that. So that's what the camp contract was really born out of, was saying
when do you
expectation.
Okay, so you invite somebody to join your camp, and then when does the camp contract go out to them? When do they give it back? When do they pay their dues, like relative to those?
We refine the camp contract after the burn every year, and then the leadership team kind of takes a look at it, and then I posted a draft of it in our community group like just a couple weeks ago, I think. And then we can talk about it if there are some things on it that people want to disagree or refine or whatever. So far we haven't had anybody push back against what's in the contract because it's all really reasonable. We have a lot of autonomy in the camp. We don't really ask that much of folks. And then dues are due the 1st of May, and then we have like kind of a grace period there too. So if people aren't comfortable with the contract, they can bail before money starts to become a thing, and you know, that sort of thing. So I try to make sure that we have a lot of space between like when the contract really gets announced and then like when the dues come in and then when people start signing up for events and that sort of thing, so people know what the expectations are and have the opportunity to maybe make a different choice about what they want to do with their burn.
There was a question. I want to make sure we also have some time to address the neighbor question, but go ahead.
I just want to say I would love access to people's contracts or escalation, like, because I love all these ideas, and if I had a couple samples, I could quickly put something
I'm
together.
happy to send ours out.
So what I'm
yeah,
going to do
I'll give you my
after this,
info.
I don't know exactly what is the forum of sharing and communicating for this, but I'm going to ask Trippy and make sure that something gets communicated to the whole list where we can share those things.
Thank you.
So just a note on just camp comms, there's some of this like registration type of stuff or application stuff. So we take a twofold approach. We have a historical cache of information. Disorient has maintained a wiki since 2007, and it's kind of like a dumping ground for past projects and shade structures and how you do certain things and our events around the world, and that's kind of where our whole body of like information goes. And then on a year-to-year basis, things change because we have varying projects and varying groups, so that changes on an annual basis. But we do have a place where we collect historical knowledge and can point people to learn about our culture and our past projects. And
That's awesome. So you can share those things then.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I have a question that, at what point did we have to become such babysitters as camp leads? And y'all can run me out if you want, but I mean, how, is it too far? I mean,
Day one.
I don't think we have to though.
I struggle with that too, though. Yeah, it's like, why is this my job?
We don't do
Work your shit out.
a lot of this stuff, and we've got, you know, a bigger one than some of these camps that have it. And then actually, we are lucky. We're lucky to have good people, and the people that aren't so great kind of fall away on their own. But I'm listening to some of these and going, yeah, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that, because
No, I'm
it'll
not
help
great
our
points that I'll
people,
implement,
yeah, you know.
but I ask myself
our
that,
people,
like,
yeah. So it's like, you're not really babysitting, you're more just giving up, you know, some people more tools.
It's about transparency.
Yeah.
And also about just like making it clear, because I think a lot of people come and they're like, what is Burning Man? And they've just seen a lot of crazy things online and just don't understand it, and taking the time to actually educate them about it lets them make a decision about whether or not your camp is the right place for them.
So as she's here, let's ask her right now. So Trippy, in our conversation, it came out, lots of people have great resources that we want to share with each other. How can you do that? Yes.
Oh, great. So you mean like camps knowing their neighbors?
No.
Yeah,
Camp
some people have camp
A document
contracts,
share.
some people have
Oh,
like,
yes, documents.
documents.
So, okay, so tomorrow during plenary, I'm gonna like give away a little bit. So Yeti, who was up on the stage with the camp development support team from BRC HOA, he has redone the camp resource guide on the Burning Man website. It was really old. There were links to 2005 e-Playa forums in that section of the website. Like, it was bad. And so he's done a really beautiful job of just updating it. And so we have kind of like phases. He's working on what we're calling the Camp Resource Project. And we need help with that because it can't just be one guy, obviously. But the idea is that we know, right? Like, there are, you know, 1,000 theme camps, and there are probably 500 plus great new camper acculturation orientation guides and presentation decks and like documents and all the things that you guys do in your various ways. So how do we put all those together and say, hey, look, here are all this stuff, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But the challenge that in this kind of next phase that we want to get to, where we are able to do that effectively, is how to make sure that the one at the top of the list, like let's say it's a list of great ways to do shade structures, that the one at the top of the list, now you see a bunch of copycat, homogenized shade structures because it's at the top of the list, just happens to be there, right? And there's like 300 more, but, right? Like, so there's something very fundamental almost about the way this is done that's really challenging. And it's also coming up in other areas of bringing in larger work, like regional networks, you know, regional events. They also want a way to share the same kind of thing, right? Like I'm a regional contact. I want to know what other regional contacts are doing. So I'm working with a group at BMHQ that's actually looking at the network of networks. That's what we call it. So what is the network of networks? If you're, you know, like Daryl from, who's the TCO admin, he's a Washington DC RC, he's a theme camp leader, right? He's like at this intersection of the network of networks almost, and there are a lot of people like that who exist in this space of all things. So we're trying to think, okay, what holistically do we need to provide, you know, in terms of like a platform for things like resource sharing and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And what will that take? Should we be doing it? Should we be centralizing that way, or should it be decentralized? Like, these are the kind of questions we're asking. So if this is your jam, you're like, I want to figure out how to do this, talk to me or Yeti and say like, I want to get involved in the camp resource project, like that's my jam, I want to help figure that out. Because we have a lot of figuring out to do.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because that sounds great, but that's all of this, right?
Right.
I guess what probably would be great for me, and maybe other people think the same way, is I was in one session earlier and I'm in this session, and a couple of these things came up, and if there could be just like, hey, you know, we're in this session, could you just send us those links? Because I've taken notes that are kind of on that stuff, and then I would have a small little group of things to look at, which would actually more likely happen. Because like the rest of you, we all have jobs in the real world, and I get like this page, and I go, yeah. But I was in here with these people, and they mentioned stuff, and I know, hey, that was something I wanted to check out, right? Is there a way to do that? Like, it may not be, but I mean, like, to me, that would almost work now well for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because on Packable, the thing that we sent out for this, there is a way to add comments on particular breakout sessions and share things.
Yeah.
So I think
that's what I was thinking.
We should announce that so people know.
Because I could go look. I went to this, and
and you can post your notes, and then someone else wasn't there. And we're doing these audio recordings, so the point is that we're going to distribute those as well. And on that camp resource guide page, we're starting to link. So there's a section on acculturation, and so we actually just put in links to videos that were out from past theme camp symposiums about acculturation. And so that way in this section, it's like boom, boom, boom. Here's all the past content from symposiums like this. So it's starting to weave together, but it's a big project.
But even just like you were saying,
just right now,
this session, a couple links of the people.
I don't want to hijack this too much, because I don't know what else you guys are talking about.
So real quick, because we have 5 minutes left, and I did want to reserve at least 3 minutes for the neighbor conversation. So real quick, you two.
Oh, I just wanted to say, if you do a follow-up survey, because not everybody's going to both days, to maybe just like outline where that link is impactful, so that it's cool. Thank you.
And one resource I can point you to right now is the Ranger Manual. It's available to anybody on the internet. It has a lot of stuff about mediation, a lot of stuff about resources. You don't have to be a ranger to read it.
So just to let everyone know, bar downstairs, not upstairs, well there's one upstairs, we're doing that one downstairs. Their credit card machine is kind of not working. So if people can get cash, there's a credit card machine upstairs. In the mall upstairs, and then tip your bartenders.
Tip your bartenders. Okay, so really quick on the conflict with neighbors. So any good experience on how you solved that?
Bring it up. Bring it up early, on plot.
I also say that best find the other camp lead. If you as a camp lead go to that camp lead, like something might have happened between campers, but go to the other camp lead because it's their problem to deal with their campers.
Right. Another suggestion is when you do that, bring a gift.
Wait, sorry, just from what she said about that app, so I just was able to message hopefully all of us in the room. If you click on
literally this session and whatever that app was.
You should be able to see my message, and I think it went through. So hopefully,
I got it.
Sorry, I forget your name.
Sachi.
Sachi could link your
camp contract.
Yeah, documents or emails.
It's pathable.
Pathable. Yeah, I think it was.
Did that go to?
I think if you just click on the agenda and click on the session, I think regardless, if you just open that.
So you open
I don't think
Pathable?
you have to register. Yeah.
So you open Pathable, you surf to this, and then you can see it in the comments.
Okay,
And there might be a way to upload
back to
something.
the neighbors first.
Sorry.
Bring a gift.
You can upload an
Bring a
attachment.
gift, camp lead to camp lead.
I just need to give props to this girl right here for giving gifts to a camp that we knew we were gonna have problems with, that like completely de-escalated us having problems with them. It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's just one note on that. I think trying to be more open-minded, we often get you're disorient, you're gonna be loud, you guys are a bunch of assholes, and so we come a lot of hostility towards us, and I would never try to have an open mind and don't make assumptions about the camps next to you. We had a major shakeup in placement this year.
You guys did.
And so we faced a lot of challenges, and it made an already difficult situation even more challenging. So I'd say, everybody's trying to do their best out there. Placement definitely is shaking things up, and so try to keep an open mind and be compassionate to your fellow camp leads and camps.
Make an effort to get to know your neighbors during setup, so that your first conversation is a nice conversation, so that when a conflict comes up, you've already established a really friendly, nice relationship. That's worthwhile.
And just to add to that, it's whenever you start knowing who your neighbors are right when you're placed, you start reaching out to them on social media. You start saying, hey, I'm the lead for this. This is what we do for our parties. We're having these block parties. And you already start getting a rapport with them, and now you know, hey, we like each other. What's wrong with our group? Like, why aren't they getting along? And then,
Totally.
Yeah, like I think a healthy thing to always have is a laminated map of what your camp's supposed to look like, and you're like, no, homie, this is a fire lane, and it's a laminate right here, and we got placed with level. He's over there, and this you can't. I want you to burn bright, but that's a fire lane, and you can't put your. That's our main thing with neighbors is. Someone the next day just puts a tent up, and it's like, I understand it's hard to find tent camping. Sorry, brother, but we've been here for 5 days, and that's a fire lane. Because if we're throwing a party and everything goes boom, we got to go this way, And if you have a laminated map or all the hard work that you do, in this world, and if you laminate it and you bring it with you, all your notes, and then you have it, and you just go, here you go, buddy. You can keep it. It's laminated, you know what I mean? But just don't sleep in our fire lane. You know what I mean? And like that in and of itself can de-escalate so much, just being prepared,
That's another conflict tool, is making subject object. So the more you can point to something that's not just your opinion.
Yeah.
And if it's
I think on that same fire lane issue is also during Build It Communicate, like if you have RVs or trailers arriving, like even if something's like being set up like right in the corner, like it's just like a sign that they made or something, just be like, hey, maybe if that's an easy thing to set up, like we've got like 2 more RVs coming on Thursday, like it needs to make the turner, but just be like open and like check in. Like last year we had the camp next to us, like their trailer had broken down, like this big with all their shit in it, and so like we basically kind of had to move things in just so that it could get in, but we were like in constant communication with them about that. So like knowing their extenuating circumstances or any conflicts that they're having in their camp that might spill over in ours, just I think having that constant communication.
Our camp has a placer. We have a placer and a sub-placer. So when you come into camp, the placer pulls out the map and says, you're supposed to be right.
That is another thing that we keep online on our wiki, and we also print it on a vinyl banner. So there is one master, everyone can go and point to that and help get people oriented on where they need to be or should be going.
So this may or may not be obvious to folks, especially during build time or break time. But if you're gonna go and try to work on a conflict with somebody, make sure you put down the chainsaw, the hammer. I am serious. I've had people come over to me and go, move your truck, and the only thing I can see is that hammer in their hand, and I'm them being pissed. I'm like, going, yes, I will, but this is our campsite. We've been here for 4 days. Can we finish? Like, this is, you're not supposed to be here, but you have a hammer. It's hard to talk to you right now.
Get down off the ladder. I'd say on a positive note, counteract my last neighbor note, some of the conflicts that we've encountered in our think camps have actually turned into some very positive experiences, some lifetime friends, just from the way you handle it. So the way you handle conflict can really turn into an asset later on in some other situation.
In camp that you go to all the time to get away from your camp.
Totally. Yeah, I love it when that happens.
And that's the perfect ending, and I just want to double click on why is that? Because conflict creates intimacy, right?
Yeah.
It's not always the intimacy we want, but it is.
Radical intimacy.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock.
Thank you.